If you're in the entrepreneurial space, you might have seen something about buying businesses and you might have wondered, well, first off, where do I even find a business to buy? And second off, if I do find one to buy, how do I know if it's a good deal? And you might also be wondering, like, what are good businesses to buy right now? Like, what's going on in the market? What kind of trends are we seeing and why? And we're going to try to unpack some of those questions today. Every week on the show, we do reviews of different kinds of deals, or we talk about trends of some kind, or we do some kind of rankings. We love to talk about businesses either selling or buying and everything that comes in between. So today we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in our home county of Orange County, Florida. And we're just going to look at all the different businesses that are for sale on one of the listing websites online. We're just going to analyze a couple of these deals and talk a little bit about what we're seeing and why that might be the case.
I think it's important to always do a health check update on the state of wherever you're living or where you're looking to buy, because you'll see sort of this kind of ebb and flow of businesses and industries. And then you can kind of cherry pick what's actually good or what are people trying to get rid of, and then make a decision from there. I know when we started the show, we couldn't, you couldn't go a week without seeing 32 new HVAC businesses. Not to say there aren't businesses in HVAC for sale, but I'd say there's drastically less than there were even a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. They're all kind of off of these listing sites. So I think it's good, and it's a very healthy way of also establishing where can I fit in.
That's right. So let's dive in. We've got the bbfmls.com pulled up. Ryan, tell us a little bit about this, just for background on what we're looking at here.
This is the most direct way to find a business in the state of Florida. It is the most bare bones 1990s looking website that you ever did see. But I would say every single broker that we've ever talked to that has been a successful broker sells quite a bit, always lists their stuff on here, and then sometimes to the other larger sites, because nobody comes here for businesses. This is a lot of this is more of an if you know type place I've found. So it's definitely the best database, and you're going to get a lot of information. And if you can link to another site where it's posted, you'll get a different half of the story too. So you also can kind of compare what they're saying here versus what they may put on their more public listing.
So let's dive in a little bit. We're going to be looking at Orange County, Florida. So if you're in Florida, you're looking for a business for sale, you can use this website. Again, it's a little bit more behind the scenes kind of deals that you might not see on the other websites, like Ryan was saying. And you can go in and kind of put all these different filters. But for our purposes, we're just going to dive in on this one particular county and see kind of everything that they've got going on. So right off the bat, we've got accounting, we've got agricultural businesses, animal and pets businesses, pet services, grooming. Looks like that's one of the big trends I'm seeing immediately. It's a lot of pet services businesses.
Yeah, a lot of them are going up, I've noticed, over the last 3 to 4 months. And a lot of them are franchises, I've noticed, because I've gotten on calls with some of these people. So that can mean two things when you see a trend. One, it can mean that it's booming and it's a pretty large industry that's coming up. Or it could signal that this is where people are not spending their money, and these businesses that were just getting by and limping are now on the downward trend, and they're just trying to get out the best they can. So you really have to do your due diligence when it comes to looking at the financials, if you go deeper, or just simply looking at on face value, what are they saying? I mean, some of these guys are posting a negative return on their sales. So I would say, based on how small the numbers are on these businesses, I don't think many of these are doing $1 million in the pet services one right now. You could definitely say these are probably on the down and out side of the business, or are going to need a complete turnaround job if you buy them.
Yeah, I don't see anything very good in here. The one exception maybe is this one with 157,000 in discretionary earnings. But tell you the truth, that's really still going to be something where you have to step in and run it like it's a job. So if that's what you're looking for, then that might work. It does seem a little overpriced for that, I'll say.
And remember, some of these people in these business situations are maybe the price is exactly the amount of money they need to get out of whatever debt they're in. They're not going to profit. They're trying to get out. So you might not have a lot of negotiating power as well. And also, if you do enjoy the industry and you're looking to get into it on your own, maybe this is a good buy if you price out what it costs to start versus what this costs to get into. But maybe you are buying a lot more headaches with an existing business than you would be if you did start something on your own. So always something you need to consider is reputation.
Now, another thing I'm seeing here is a lot of, specifically, quite a few auto general repair.
See, that one perplexes me because I feel like I see automotive and general repair a lot, but then I also see them sold and they go under contract very quickly. So I think it's an industry that there's just a lot of need for at the end of the day. So like there is one called the Jaguar Doctor, which has been there for a while, and I think maybe a little too specialized, considering Jaguar isn't even making cars right now.
That might be what I'm trying to sell.
Yeah, probably. Talk about betting on the wrong horse, but the automotive ones, while there may be a lot of them, I see them frequently under contract, which is a good sign that even though there's a lot going up, a lot of people are buying them. And they usually have what I've noticed as I'm going to call it a trend, but I'm going to say it's a good trend. A lot of the brokers are listing on that the buyer wants to sell to somebody who has industry experience or knowledge or has, their own shop and looking to expand. These sellers nowadays are becoming very conscious of who they're selling to, and it's going beyond are they able to have the money approved by the SBA or a loan company. These people are looking for people to continue their business and protect their own employees. So, like we said in the past, if you don't have the experience, you may need to look around and find somebody who you trust who wants to do this with you, who can provide that backing.
This one is crazy. I won't spend too much time on this one, but we've got an eyelash services business, which actually I think would be a great business to own, but it is doing such low profit compared to the sales revenue. It's doing less than 10% profit margins, and they want something like almost 10 times the earnings for it. So terrible value proposition there.
Also, when you're putting that much text in the base listing, it's probably not a good sign. It's like when you did something wrong as a kid and you tried to like stall your parents by lying and making up a story, and the longer the story went, the more they knew you were lying. This has the same vibe to it.
And Ryan, you might want to turn on the mute on yours. They're saying there's a little bit of an echo.
Oh, okay.
Someone just tuned in and said that.
Thank God.
Thank you, Trey Super 123. Appreciate you. Let us know if you have any questions too. And we've got a lot in the beauty and personal care here. A lot of these eyelash service businesses, hair salons, nail salons. The kind of the trend I'm seeing here though is most of these are very small. And the problem with these, you've got 32,000 a year in discretionary earnings, 40, 48, 54. This is barely enough to get by. So if you were to buy a business like this, not only are you going to have debt service that you have to pay, but it's so small that you're going to have to work in this business to really make it work and continue doing what it's doing. There's not enough room for layers of management. So you're going to have to work full time in this just to make it work. And in my opinion, at least, just one man's opinion here, doing that for 54, 48, 40,000, $32,000 a year, not a great value proposition, because you could probably do a lot better just having a W-2 job that pays you, or just starting your own thing and making maybe even more money than that working full time, and not have the stress of having debt service and the risk of having debt service. Typically, you only really want to take that on or get into something like this if it's actually going to be able to pay you something that you might not be able to get otherwise.
Or maybe you have enough money saved up and you're like, yeah, I can take a hit for a while and try to build this thing, and I have the confidence to think I can actually get somewhere with this, which is fine. If that's the case, yeah, jump in. The nail and beauty stuff, those are very good industries from my understanding. I don't frequent them, but I always see the women in my office, they all have really nice nails, and sometimes they're getting them done weekly, bi-weekly, and sometimes they'll be like, oh, it cost me, and then they say a number that I can't fathom, but then I look at the nail and they're like, it's art. Like, I think a lot of times it's if you can get the right talent in, just like a tattoo shop or a barber shop, you'll get those people coming. But if you do it already, you can just go on Instagram, make a side hustle, and call it a day.
Yep. There's also a couple spa services here. I think
The
that's
med
kinda
spa thing is
interesting.
crazy, dude. I feel like we're at the med spa apocalypse.
Yeah, I've got a friend of the show, someone who's tuned in before and kind of like runs things by me from time to time. We were talking yesterday, and he's looking for a med spa to potentially bring an investor into. I think they're great businesses. I mean, it's one of those businesses where the amount of offerings that you could have in it are just increasing day by day. You could get into areas like peptides and prescribing those, and there's some regulation that seems like it's going to be opening more of that up. So being in something like a med spa, I think that's a great business. These ones are a little small though. Really, again, just enough cash flow here left to kind of service the debt and then maybe pay you a good salary. So if you want to get in and run it full time, that's one thing. But there's just not much room and not much meat on the bone here to put a layer of management in place or to have a layer of management.
Now, yeah, well, I mean, a lot of these are going to be instances where you need to get in there and you need to get your hands dirty for these prices. Just what it is. And don't forget that the seller discretionary is not what's going into his pocket or her pocket at the end of the day. That is after everything is paid, that's what's left. And then there's still some light items after that, meaning your debt service isn't included in that. You need to keep some money in the business account for emergencies. You can't just take it all home. I mean, could you? Yes. Is it a bad idea? Yes. So just remember my rule of thumb is whatever their SDE is, I figure out a light amount of what the debt service would be at the price, and then I cut whatever's left in half, and I say, okay, that's the take home. Is that worth it? And if I'm really excited about it, or if I feel good about it, yeah, forget it. I'll just, save up the money so I can float myself for the time being, and then I'll just dig into it and get it there. But that's kind of how you should look at it when you see that SDE.
Now we're just in the C's here. This is alphabetical order, so we're gonna have to start skipping some of these.
Yeah, there's plenty of crap.
Some kind of honorable mentions as we're skipping ahead here. Lots of cleaning businesses. This is where you're starting to see some stuff with a little bit more meat on the bone in the 200s discretionary earnings. I think a cleaning business, great business to get into.
Really gotta have good people though, because it only takes one person to hand a card at the end of the cleaning session and say, "Hey, I do a good job. Call me on the side and stop using this company, and I'll come and clean it." Happens more often than you would care to think about, because again, it's a very easy industry to get into. So
that's right. You got a lot of stuff in the construction space here. This is kind of the space.
Really, I feel like the construction space listings are pretty small comparatively.
I guess there's a lot of things that broadly encompass construction, so that leaves itself to a lot of different industries. I guess there's not really a lot per. There's only one HVAC business here, and it's actually
that one's been up there for I think since we started this show,
and it's under contract pending right now.
That was the 5th time.
You've only got one roll-off business listed, one concrete coating business. You've only got one counter business, it looks like. So it looks like there's only one of each kind of category here for the most part. So my read on that is, people are getting more interested in these spaces, these home service and construction spaces. I think they're just getting a little bit more picked over and people are more interested in them. Also, Trey, thanks for your comment about the stream. We're happy to have you here, and I'm glad you're tuning in. Just let us know if you've got any questions or if you find anything that you want to see us look into a little bit more. Also, Arush, glad to see you on here too. That's actually the guy I was talking about earlier that is looking into med spas a little bit. So glad you're tuning in. Maybe we'll find a med spa in Florida that's interesting. Well, we did see a couple, so you might want to check them out. Yeah. He's not in Florida though. We've got convenience stores. I'm going to keep kind of rolling through here until we find something that we're seeing a lot of though. Ooh, a lot of fitness stuff.
Which again,
yoga studios, health clubs, gyms. These I would steer clear of, if I'm being honest. Now, when it gets to something like a yoga studio, I feel a little bit differently about something like that. I mean, my fiance is a very, very loyal yoga goer, and she is a great regular customer of her yoga studio, and most of the people that go are. I think you got a really sticky customer base and good profit margins on something like that. And some of these more like niche type of fitness services that are like high ticket classes like that. But something like a more general gym, I would probably stay away from.
I mean, I think it really depends on the person. If you have some sort of like branding or following, or you're in the space already as a professional, maybe a physical space could help you out. However, I do think that with the volume of franchises and other businesses in the space, it's hard to differentiate yourself. And also, what people are doing now with income, especially discretionary, is pulling back what we've seen. So, stuff like this is not the first to fall off, but people will start cutting back on stuff in certain situations. So, maybe once things rebound, these businesses will probably get snapped up. But I think the interesting thing about the yoga studio, to your point, is it just the studio or is there a staff? Because either way, I feel like it's easier to staff a studio with nobody in it than it is to run one with an existing client base. Because at the very least, you can get new people in there to drum up business.
Yeah, it's all in context, right? I mean, I think like whenever you look at one of these businesses, you've got to think about not only how is it running now, but how would it run under new ownership, and how does that factor into your situation and what you need to see out of the business. Let's kind of keep moving through here. We've got, this is pretty common. Usually you see at least a few landscaping businesses, but I'm going to go ahead and say this is one of the lowest amount of landscaping businesses I've seen in a while. Not a whole lot of them. It seems like there's just less businesses on the market than there typically are.
Yeah,
What do
we
you
see
think?
this. This is kind of cyclical, though. Like we saw this coming into the year. We saw a pop end of winter, and then we're back here at this kind of lull slump, which I don't know if it's a direct correlation of somebody selling or people just pulling their stuff off the market like real estate.
Got a few things in the manufacturing space here.
I love that space.
Yeah, this is a space that I would feel really good about, and I mean, you can see that reflected in what kind of businesses these are. I mean, you've got, so far, I'm not really seeing anything under five or anything under $300,000 a year in discretionary earnings. You've got fabricators, machine shops, millwork. Well, this one's priced for $0 and it's making $1 million a year. So
Check your broker, people.
yeah, that sounds like a great deal to me. This one actually great business right here. I mean, this one's making $1.2 million a year in discretionary earnings, listed for 4.75. Man, a business like this is going to have layers of management and lots of systems. It's probably been around for a while. So probably got a lot of great clients too. So, you know, that's a good business. It's going to be tough to qualify for, and I mean, it's going to be competitive too. You can see a lot of these already are under contract. Pretty much all of them are. So I'm not surprised by that, but it's interesting to see so many of these listed for sale. I wonder what kind of macroeconomic trend that might indicate.
I mean, I think it's simple. If you can make stuff locally, people are going to more likely buy it. I mean, we've wanted for the last decade where we keep talking about wanting to bring more stuff domestic. So, and an area that has constant construction, fabricating stuff locally and being able to get it to the site within a couple days is much more effective than ordering. So,
back to the fitness thing we were talking about earlier, our friend Arush in the comments was just saying he's seen more fitness franchises pop up around him. And I've seen the same thing around here. I mean, I think just as a trend, probably across most of the US, I think they're getting more and more popular, these kind of like niche classes, probably because they're good business models and make a lot of, they've got high profit margins and people like to have their routine. Got a couple chiropractors, not a lot.
And that's never a high end business. So special, it's a whole bunch of stuff.
Now here, we thought we were seeing the med spas earlier. Here's where the med spas actually are. We got a lot of them right here. Medical spa. Not a lot of them listing what they're actually making. This one's losing money like crazy. So that's wouldn't take that one, people. This one's making no money. Wow. This one's losing money.
Mm-hmm. Med spa apocalypse.
It seems that way. Yeah. There's a lot of med spas listed on here that are struggling big time. Even the ones that are doing all right are still pretty small. So
Well, again, discretionary income. I mean, you want to say that your med spa caters to high end clients, but there's such a heavy saturation of med spas. And with people pulling back, it's not like people just have time to go get Botox or get, whatever, peptides or, anything to that degree. So, of course, there'd be a lot of med spas who are facing, very hard times and are looking to escape whatever they're in. So, this is unsurprising to me. It's very sad, but I think there's sort of a med spa saturation problem that we've had in Orlando and probably a lot of other places, and this is the reckoning of it.
yeah, Arush, if you're still listening, maybe look around and yeah, it looks like he is. He said along medical side, physio is looking good to you guys. He's asking if we think physio is looking good to us. What do you think?
Physio?
Ryan's family actually owns something in more of like the medical space or adjacent. You mean physical therapy?
Normally with physios, yeah. Look, you can do physical therapy. Yeah, people always busting themselves up. Everybody's going to need something. I think physical therapy is just one of life's constants, sort of like death and taxes, whether it's the elderly people having a knee replacement or necessary hip replacement or just general ailments that they need to come back from, a younger person having a surgery that impairs their movement, athletes. I think a physio is always going to be in need, especially if you have a lot of good insurance companies that work with you. You'll be in network for a lot of people, which will be a great way to kind of print money.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the differentiator between them being more needs based versus more want based, like some of the med spas, they're more elective things that people are getting done. So I wonder if this is maybe a little bit of a indicator that, I mean, there's been a lot of data coming out lately on just consumer spending and showing that like consumers are like Ryan was saying, pulling back a little bit on their spending. So that might be carrying over a little bit into what we're seeing with some of these med spas. But physical therapy is a needs-based business. So you have a little bit more of a moat around you that way. And they've been around for a while. The business model itself has been able to mature a little bit more. So you're not necessarily riding as much of a volatility wave as you might be with the med spas. But Arush, I would definitely look into like what kind of med spas are for sale in your local area. And if you're seeing, a bunch of carcasses, like in this case, then it might be an indicator of one of two different things. It might be an indicator that it's a little bit of a struggling proposition in the area. Maybe it's getting a little out competed, or it might be an indicator that you could get one for pretty cheap and turn it around. Depends on how you look at it. When there's blood in the streets, we buy.
But you also need the cash to put into it. You better have liquid if you buy one that's zeroing out or losing money, because I promise you, if they're not listing their SDE, it might be because it doesn't exist.
There's a couple of them that it looked like it didn't exist for you.
Nobody hides it because they make too much money. I mean, I think towards the end, there's another glut of restaurants and bars that come up at the end here. And I mean, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. It's just a bad idea. You live and die by your product and by the economy. So general rule of thumb, if you really want to go and, sell your famous grandma's cookies or whatever, just post on social media and have people show up to a place and they'll buy it. And you never even had to take out some overhead.
Yeah, you could get a food truck and probably be a lot better off.
Hell, just set up a bake stand.
We'll skip all the restaurants for sale here because I'm going to make a blanket statement that Ryan was kind of already hinting at there, which is they're a bad idea. Just don't do it.
Crumble Cookie is shutting down stores now.
Yeah, we watched we did a stream a while back, Ryan and I, where we watched like a whole breakdown on like the Crumble model, and that whole franchise is just crushing their franchisees right now.
It's cannibalistic.
They're crunching down on them and making it an untenable business model for them. So they're just going down hard, unfortunately.
Wendy's just closed over a couple hundred stores across the U.S.
Wendy's
did.
Wow.
A lot of fast food chains are shutting down stores. So I think if they're not able to sustain themselves right now, I think it's a clear indicator that no matter how good your grandma's recipe is, it can't compete with the fact that people are only keeping their cash closer.
Yeah. And I mean, again, this is just a graveyard. Look at all these restaurants, like so many different types of
Yeah.
restaurants. Unfortunately, it's not a good business decision to buy a restaurant or to start one. And I'm sure there's exceptions. I do know someone who has family in the restaurant private equity space that's doing very well. They've got a great niche. They're in a very premium part of the space and they're doing very well for themselves. There are companies out there like Darden, who I'm sure is continuing to do really well. So it's not like you can't have success in it, but for the average person, don't buy a freaking restaurant. It's just a bad idea. And don't start one. Unless you hate yourself and you want to suffer and lose money, if that's your goal, then buy a restaurant. But if that's not your goal, don't buy a restaurant. You see a lot of retail in here too. And I think this is another graveyard. I mean, really ever since COVID, and it's been a while now, but ever since COVID, I think you just see a lot of retail dying out. I personally would not want to invest in something retail based. It just it's the same kind of thing. Like you're kind of relying on consumer spending to be high and for the economy to be good and for people to choose to go in person to places to make purchases versus doing it online. And I think we're seeing people are going more and more online. So, I mean, just bet on the big trends, people. Let's see what else we got. We got some package routes. You've looked into these more than I have. What do you think about package routes, like and logistic routes?
I wouldn't touch them anymore. With a lot of companies cracking down on them, and just kind of some of them even like discontinuing the routes only to bring them back up. But internally, I think there's a bit too much volatility in it. And again, you're also at the behest of consumer spending. If nobody's buying stuff that gets shipped to them, or there aren't as many packages to be delivered, there's a lot that goes into it, and it kind of ties back into the consumer part. But I think in general, just the volatility with how FedEx, UPS, and everybody else is kind of treating their routes and kind of the trend of pulling back, bringing them in-house. I think that's more or less why I would stay away. I think maybe 10, 12 years ago, it was a thriving thing, but right now, not so much.
Yeah. And we had another comment from Arush here who's asking about senior care and home physical therapy. That stuff, there's a reason you don't see it listed on here. Those are great businesses. You're probably going to need to find them off market by talking to people who maybe haven't formally decided they want to sell yet, just asking if they want to sell or if they'd consider it. Those are fantastic businesses, and those you can bet on. Those are going to continue to make money. They're needs based, and it's going to continue to stay profitable and be a great space to be in. So that's a great direction to go. But we've actually got to the end of all the businesses listed here for sale. What are your top couple takeaways from all this?
Most of the time, if a business is being pushed out en masse, there's a reason, and it's normally that they're not doing well. However, there are the exceptions like the automotives and the manufacturers where you'll see a big chunk of them and then they almost always seem to be under contract. But I think if there's a lot of something and there's not many, if any, under contracts, that's an indication that the consumer health is not great and that industry is dying, or it's a poorly run business that has run its course. And there's plenty of businesses that you guys might think of that aren't on here. And this is not the de facto, but maybe they're listed somewhere else, or they're on a private broker, and private brokers are private for a reason because they get the best stuff. They have the highest prices. I've been involved in 2 different private broker sales things with basically almost 100 other people for businesses that are, one of them was an ambulance business and one of them was a transportation business. And my God, those were beautiful businesses. And if I had had the money, oh my God, yeah, I've gone through with that. But he didn't list those anywhere. You had to go through a whole process of an interview, and then you had to prove funding, and you had to go through a lot of hoops for him to let you in, and you had to find him first of all. But you can find some of the best stuff, like you said, Brody, is off market, or they're with a great broker who's got a tremendous network of solid buyers. And it's going to be an auction house situation where the buyer gets to cherry pick the person who's going to best continue their business, and not always just hey, check it out. It's out here. He's making about $100,000 and he wants about $500K for it.
Yeah. I think my biggest takeaway from this, I'll try to give something different than Ryan said to it. My biggest takeaway, I think, is, there's some blood in the streets of different industries here. So, if you kind of know what you're doing and you have some actual expertise in a particular industry, maybe you're already a business owner and you're kind of looking to expand your business, make an acquisition, or if you're looking to get into a space and buy a business for the first time that you have previous experience in, maybe look to some of these areas where you might be able to scoop up some of the stuff that someone else couldn't make work, and you can make it work and get it on the cheap while there's some blood in the streets. That could be an equally viable option. It's a risky option, but you might be able to de-risk it by getting it way cheaper than you'd be able to get it otherwise. So that's kind of an equally viable thing to look for in here. I think it just comes down to perspective. If you're trying to just buy something solid, stable, steady, then look at some of these listings as a cautionary tale. And if you see a lot of these going up for sale and they're very small businesses, that means that a lot of people are getting into them and they're failing. So there's probably a reason to look at, maybe something bigger that you're not seeing. But that also probably means you could scoop them up for cheap. And if you know what you're doing, you've been able to grow these types of businesses before, you might be able to acquire some assets and some staff without having to pay as much as you would if you had to start it from scratch.
Just don't lose your shirt, guys. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there will be another deal. That's I think the best way to put it is, it's not, that deal isn't the only deal you'll ever find. And if you do this long enough and you keep your head up and you keep yourself engaged, you will find the deal that actually works. Don't think because a deal is too good to be true or a deal fits that you need to go ahead and leverage everything to get it.
Absolutely. Well, we do this every week, Tuesdays right around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we do some kind of deal review, or we're doing some kind of rankings of businesses. We're reviewing maybe a particular business deal or an area of this world. So if you're someone who's interested in buying businesses or selling businesses, or maybe a little bit of both, tune in, continue to tune in, and find us on LinkedIn. Shoot us a connect request. Our names are on the screen. Thank you, Trey. I appreciate it. Thank you again for tuning in. He says very knowledgeable. Both of you, thanks. We appreciate you being here and just and supporting the show. And if you guys want to see us cover specific things, just let us know, and we'll try to kind of go in the direction of what you guys want to see. But until the next time, see you guys next Tuesday.